you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
I was willing to take risks in how I expressed myself, and I decided to not care what people thought if I wore yellow lipstick out to the store. And sometimes I'd be with my mom, and wearing yellow lipstick out to the store, and I know that she's thinking, what the hell? But, she's my mother, so she's gonna support me. But I just felt more confident, and I still feel when I get dressed up and I, pick out an outfit and I really, put thought into the outfit that I choose, I feel confident and I feel more like myself, because there's a lot of creative things that I used to do that I don't do as much anymore, like writing. I used to write a lot of poetry, and I'll still occasionally do some creative writing. Like I have a couple creative writing pieces that I posted on my Instagram, or, I've written some Swedish poetry here and there, trying to challenge myself. But I don't do it quite as much as I used to, and I noticed that fashion has become a way for me to still feel like I'm creatively expressing myself and, getting my true self and my true image out to the world, even if it's just at a glance. I know a lot of people probably glance at me and be like, oh, she weird, and just keep on with their day. And there's no thoughts beyond that. I think that everybody worldwide, people have a desire to be themselves and to be able to express themselves freely. And I think that not being able to do that is oppressive. You look at places like North Korea where they have a great, fantastic community bond. Like if you look at the community bond of people of North Korea, those people will ride or die for their communities, because that's the culture that they know. But things are a little bit different here, and I do appreciate that we're able to be more open and honest and authentic with ourselves. I think it's a valuable aspect of society. I think it pushes society forward when people can think individualistically, as long as they're able to kind of keep it in check and not let it become a monolith thing where everybody is just focused solely on themselves and there's no community outlook, if that makes sense. Fashion is art, but it also has the ability to enact social change. Well, art has the ability to enact social change too, so I can't necessarily disconnect it in that way. But if you look historically at fashion, fashion has been used in social movements, and fashion has been used across time for people to come together and create change and come together and create community. Even in places like Afropunk, you see alternative people come together and it creates community. And it's community beyond art, in my opinion. Like, it's not just an art community, it's a community beyond that. It can be a political community, it can be a social community. It's not just an art community of, we're expressing ourselves artistically or creatively through our fashion. I think it goes beyond that into other aspects of life. And I am always excited to see people express themselves through their fashion publicly in new ways, because I do like seeing things go beyond the kind of base artistic level or beyond my own mindset of what my own style is. Being able to see somebody else's style is not only going to impact me artistically or creatively, but it's also can literally impact the way that I think politically, can literally impact the way that I think socially or as part of my community. I can look at somebody's clothing and be like, wow, that's a statement. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an artistic statement. It can be a political statement. It can be a social statement. And it can be an artistic statement at the same time. A lot of times these things intermesh. I think you know that. A lot of times art kind of comes together and meshes with politics, with social issues, with just people wanting to be themselves, and they're not being anything more to it than that. It comes together with all these other things. So I think that fashion is a form of art, and I think that it goes beyond art as well.
And it allows you to discover who you are in a way, and really embody who you are. And I think that's so important, because more now than I believe in the past, people are looking for what's real, because there's so much fake and inauthenticity around them that the human soul craves for what's real. And when you see it, and sometimes it's not a conscious thought for most people, it's just like a feeling. But when you see it, you have the feeling or the knowing that, you're looking at something real, or you're looking at someone who's truly embodying themselves, however that looks. And oftentimes people will stare. You get a lot of eyes, you get a lot of attention, you get a lot of, sometimes they are judgment stares. And for me specifically, well, one, I don't really pay attention to it too much unless it's brought to my attention. But I think in general, when you dress boldly and you are truly embodying yourself through fashion, you have to have a level of not just self-knowing, but confidence as well, because you can't hide. And I know for me, on the days where I feel like I dress quote unquote normal to someone else's standards, I don't feel like myself. I feel like a shell of myself.
But at the same time, when I am forced to, wear things that I don't feel like represent who I really am or my true expression, I do feel like something a little bit is missing, or that people around me are missing an aspect that they could be seeing of me. They could be seeing this part of me that I'm expressing, especially people who I don't know very well. People who I know well are already going to see the colorful part of my personality and that creative part of my personality, regardless of what I'm wearing. But for people who I don't know, who come in, I work at a sauna studio, and we have clients come in every day who I don't know, who are brand new. And those people, I'm just getting my first impression of them. They're getting their first impression of me. I feel like I would feel like I'm showing them more of myself if I was able to dress authentically. But I still kind of find my ways around that, because I have purple and blue hair right now and shit that they can't get mad at me for, and that I can't just take out of my head, So I kind of find my way around it to be able to still have some color in my outfit, have some aspect of myself shining through in those moments. When I worked at a department store, I worked at Kohl's. When I first started working there, did not have a dress code other than don't be super inappropriate. You know what I mean? As in, don't come with a bikini on, for a retail job, which is kind of given. But overall, it was pretty much wear whatever you want, which was perfect for me, and I absolutely did. I wore whatever I wanted, and nobody said shit to me. And it was beautiful, and it was wonderful. But then randomly, they decided to change that, and they decided to say everybody has to wear all black every day, and that's all you can wear is plain black. And needless to say, I was not there for more than like 3 months after that change happened. I feel like socially, fashion is a really important aspect of how you communicate yourself, especially to people you don't know. And it's kind of a outside representation of yourself, you know. And that's why so many businesses are like, you have to dress this exact way because, you know, you have to fit our brand guidelines. But if the entire world was like that and like, you have to fit our brand guidelines, you have to wear black all day, every day, you know, wow, I think that social life, the way that we view it now, would like break down because it just takes away a whole expressive aspect of a person. You know, it's almost like, you know, maybe not as severe as this, but it's almost like taking away somebody's voice, like somebody's ability to really speak for themselves, you know, because you're taking away an aspect of their expression. You know, it may be a little bit less severe than taking away somebody's entire ability to speak or to speak out. But I think that it would definitely affect people socially in a similar way, where people would be less likely to seek out social relationships. Social relationships would be more difficult to form because people are going into meeting people without an aspect of, you know, something they could talk about. I think that you would see less innovation from people. In societies where people are given more freedoms, I think you see a lot more innovation, which is a really big word that can be applied in a lot of different ways. But by innovation, I mean like new creativity, like new ways of thinking, people coming up with new ideas. So maybe doing something that you don't see many other people doing, or creating something new, or just thinking outside of the box. I feel like you would see a lot less of that. And the ramifications, like the specific ramifications of that, would be many. I feel like you would see less advancement technologically. You could see less advancement culturally, like artistically, just in general. People are going to be less inclined to create on all levels. So that means less likely to create artistically, less likely to create technologically, scientifically, socially, culturally. People may be less likely to get into relationships with other people, you know, if they have less of a way of connecting with somebody who is like they see as their own unique person. You know, if everybody's the same, are you going to be as likely to want to, you know, find relationships, and not necessarily even romantic relationships, but just friendships, you know? Are you going to be as inclined to seek those things out from people who have a little bit less of an identity at that point?
Sometimes you have the thoughts in your head, and those thoughts push you to dimming your light and being more acceptable and more agreeable, just so you can feel part of the group, just so you can feel like you're like everybody else. And I think every time that I made a choice in order to feel accepted by other people and embraced by other people and like I belonged, I've always felt more empty internally. There's something about embracing who you really are that has so much value in the world, and especially our world now, where, like I said earlier, people aren't authentically themselves. They just pick up the ideas that have been passed down to them. They just pick up the perspectives that have been passed down to them. They just pick up the goals and the purposes and the lifestyles that have been passed down to them or force-fed to them. And it's becoming increasingly rare to see someone buck that trend, and not just buck that trend just to buck that trend, but to buck that trend and live authentically from within and be happy.
But I do have a little bit of an obligation to the world because I know that that is who I truly am. And if I hide who I truly am from the world, I'm taking another person out of society who can be a representation of diversity and who can be a representation of something different. And when people don't see things that are different, they're going to hate on those different things when they do see it. But that's a part of their identity. That's part of who they are. If they're being genuine with themselves, some people I believe hide some of themselves, and that's not genuine. But some people dress very traditionally, and that's who they are. And you take those things away from people, you're taking a whole creative aspect away. And when you take a whole creative aspect away, I feel like you stunt society in multiple ways. So.
Should embrace your flaws. You should embrace the uniqueness about you, because you don't know how that's going to affect the people in the room, or your friends, or your family. You don't know how you can inspire someone. And inspiration is another thing that doesn't hold a monetary value, but it's one of the driving forces of science and creativity, and driving forces of society. We live off of inspiration. People read books for inspiration. People live their lives to be inspired, or they don't live their life because they're not inspired. Inspiration is one of those things that is so mysterious and yet so powerful. And when you have it, you're filled with life. And when you don't have it, you're usually in a pretty dark place. And sometimes all it takes is to see someone living their light, and instantly you're inspired. And like I said, that's like an invaluable thing. It's something you can't put a value on. It's just one of those things that you know it when you see it, and you kind of don't know it until you see it and experience it. And if there's less people in the world who are willing to live in their light, then there's less inspiration in the world to take from, and to observe, and to utilize, and to be inspired from. So I think it's very valuable, very, very valuable for people to express themselves through fashion. And of course, this comes from two fashion people, so obviously we have that bias, but I think you were the right person that I wanted to have this talk with, because I think people usually think that things that are classified as art is merely entertainment. And I've had to battle that myself, being someone who's very creative. I had to battle that myself, and I had to look at my own work and say, well, is this just entertainment, or is there more value here? And there is more value. But the question isn't, is there more value or isn't there more value? It's, what is the true value? And that's a great question to ask, because as soon as you start expressing yourself, value is created. As soon as you start expressing yourself in any way, there's value there. And that's because innately you are valuable, because you exist. You have something that you can add to this world that no one's added before. So you have an innate value, and every time you express yourself, that's value creating value. Now, we could always dive into the specifics of what's good value and what's not good value, but that's a conversation for another time. I firmly believe that because we are innately valuable, what we create is valuable. And the argument isn't, is it valuable? It's, what is the value that we could take from it?
You have one unheard message. First unheard message.
I think that you can really build a lot of self-esteem with just being proud of who you are and expressing that through how you dress. When I was growing up, my mom chose my outfits for me most of the time until I reached a certain age. And I kind of wish that she let me have a little bit more free reign on my outfits. Not that it, messed me up or anything, that she didn't let me wear my own outfits, But I do think that had I had the opportunity to express myself from a younger age, that it probably would have built a lot of self-confidence in myself to be able to make my own choices, and feel valued in the choices that I make as a child. Because a lot of times kids are really devalued because they're kids, and people are like, oh, you're a kid, your opinions don't matter, your expressions don't matter, your voice doesn't matter because you're not mature, and yes, there are some cases where kids should not be, relied upon as much as adults should, but I think that giving kids their own ability to express themselves and be their own individuals really builds a lot of self-esteem in kids. And I know that if I had a child, that I would definitely give them the opportunity to not only give them opportunities to create, whether it be just painting or, going out to play in the yard and, creating an imaginary world. Not only would I encourage that, but I also would encourage them to dress however they want, and I feel like my kid, knowing that they can dress however they want and, within certain limitations, of course, of appropriateness as a child, knowing that my child knowing that they can dress however they want and that that their expressions are viewed as valuable by their own parents, that's really valuable too. And I think that it could build a lot of self-esteem in young kids, just feeling like your expressions are valuable.
End of message. To delete this message, press 7. Message deleted. First skipped message.
I just remind myself typically that those people were likely just haven't seen somebody like me, and they their mindset is like expecting to see people be a certain type of way. Especially the most eyes that I've gotten is with my lipstick, like with my colored lipstick. That's where I get the most eyes. I've worn like green lipstick, blue lipstick out, and I get the most eyes with the lipstick. I think that people just are not expecting to see that, and I understand people's curiosity. When people see something that they're not expecting to see, their eyes just tend to linger. But it is a little bit uncomfortable, and that's just kind of the reality when people you don't know are just like staring at you for a while, especially if they're making comments. And I have had people make comments a couple times. It's pretty uncomfortable, but I tend to deal with it by just reminding myself that those people are not used to seeing people like me, and are not used to seeing people wear colored lipstick like that. They're just not used to seeing it, and I feel like me being able to put a new look out there, or a look they have not seen before personally, is able to expand their view of what people should look like or have to look like, so hopefully, even though those people like may be staring, at the end of the day, at least all I can do is hope that it has influenced them in a positive way to see people with a little bit more of an open mind at the end of the day.
Message deleted. Next message sent to. Message deleted. Next message sent Friday, April 11th.
This whole week, I feel like I've been having the conversation of people judge what they don't understand until it's like universally accepted, and then they celebrate you. So people may judge you for the colored lipstick, but if they seen someone famous do it, they would celebrate that famous person for doing it, rather than celebrate the average. Well, I don't want to call you average because you're not average, but you know what I mean? Like the non-famous person, like they wouldn't celebrate that person, but they'd celebrate Billie Eilish or, someone who's famous and popping and be like, wow, they were bold enough to try this, and everybody starts doing it. I've been having that conversation throughout like this whole week, and I've just been telling my friends, they're creative too, I've just been telling them, like, you may not be embraced right now in your environment, and that's because people don't like to think that they're around superstars, especially if they are themselves pretty average and basic. They like to assume that everybody else is average and basic just like them. So like if you were a creative genius, or if you are a creative genius, or you are like a superstar, like they probably won't acknowledge that. They probably won't feed into that. They probably won't reflect that, but that doesn't mean you're not that. And I texted my friend Asia, I texted her the other night, and I was like, don't allow all these humans to make you believe like you're human. Don't allow these humans to allow you to think that you're human. Like you are way more, like you are next level, like you are super talented. Don't allow them and their mindset to rub off on you and think you're just an average creative. Like you're not. And if you existed in another time, if you existed and created in the past, like we'd probably be reading about you in history books. So like don't allow the times in your environment to make you feel like you're just average.
Message deleted. End of messages. Check erased messages. Press 19.
That what we all do has value. Even people who are, maybe not traditionally be seen as creatives, who are not traditionally seen as artists, but are creatives in another form, like scientists or people who, who are innovators, who are creatives in their own right. Those people, 100 years ago would have been, ostracized too, Look at people who, people used to believe that the earth was flat. And if you told them otherwise, you'd be called a witch and burned to death or something like that. Do not let other people's opinions, try not to allow it to affect you too much, because really, like, people are just going off of what they have seen, what they know. New ideas to people are a lot, like, pretty scary for a lot of people. Like, new things are pretty scary for a lot of people. So, I think it's really important to, just not concede your creativity to other people's lack of understanding or lack of visibility, with those things. Just because it hasn't been visible doesn't mean that it's not valuable.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again. El número que marcó no está en servicio. Verifíquelo y márquelo de nuevo.